Hey guys, it's Shelby, otherwise known as Shelbizleee here on YouTube, and today I'm coming at you guys with a topic that needs to be discussed a little bit, at least I think so. We're going to be talking about the 4th of July, specifically fireworks, and some of the environmental impacts it has on us, as well as our environment, as well as wildlife. So I would really appreciate it if you would be willing to learn about these things, and stay tuned. So the reason I make videos like this is because a lot of us, including myself, for a very long time obviously, have grown up and been living a life doing so many things, buying so many things, participating in so many things that I think no one ever really stops and thinks about. Like, how many people have stopped to think about what are the environmental impacts of me exploding these metals into the air? What happens to those metals after that happens? What kind of impacts does that have on the other living things around me, just for my pleasure to see something explode into the air? I mean, even for me personally, I have always been a very eco-minded person. I always think about the best choices I can make, but only up until maybe last year I started to think about maybe fireworks have an environmental impact that I didn't know about before. I did a little bit of research so I could make this video for you guys, and I found out that it's actually pretty bad. I think the most obvious part of this might be that the things that go into the air to make this explode are similar to gunpowder. They are metals and they are compounds that are meant to explode, right? So I guess that's where we could start, is where those things are mined and the environmental impacts of just mining in itself. If you've seen my environmental impacts of makeup video, you would know that mining for minerals is a very environmentally harmful practice in and of itself. It takes over huge swaths of land, moves out all the species who live there and depend on those areas, deforesting the land. We talked about how talc and mica have very serious implications for the Bengal tiger, but that goes for any ecosystem anywhere they're mining for those things, like the ones that go into fireworks, which the two main components that I found are aluminum and potassium compounds. So the environmental implications of these things that we're literally just doing for our enjoyment. So the minerals are mined, shipped somewhere to be made, right? Obviously there are greenhouse gases associated with moving those things from place to place and the manufacturing process in and of itself. But let's go ahead and skip ahead to what goes into the fireworks to make them explode. So like I said, it's a lot of different medical particles, things like aluminum, potassium, and there's another material called a perchlorate, and that's used to propel the fireworks into the air. It is a very reactive chlorine compound. So when you think about the fact that all of these things are going up into the air, right, that get stuck in the air, the tiny particles that you can't really see but you can breathe them in, those things get stuck in the air. The smoke from the fireworks gets stuck in the air, so we end up breathing in these tiny metal particles into our lungs, which is obviously not good for our lungs, but also really bad for our brains. So not only do some of those things get suspended into air, but the things that are too heavy to be suspended in the air come back down to the earth, where they will eventually get washed away into our waterways. Also, there are the larger particles, like the little cardboard pieces that get stuck on the ground. If you don't pick them up, they're too large to be washed away, but they're just large enough to where maybe another animal coming along, sniffing along the ground, will get it into their nose, might even accidentally eat it. And studies have shown that after the 4th of July and New Year's and things like that, a lot of animals are reported to be found dead because of ingesting firework materials. So that's just the debris that is found on the ground, which originally I thought to myself, when my parents always do these elaborate firework shows, that we could just pick up the stuff off the ground and that would greatly reduce the amount of like environmental impacts that we're having on other living things around us. But doing a little bit of research proved me very wrong. Even if you pick up all of the debris from your night of fireworks, just the explosions that happen during the fireworks disorient a lot of animals, and a lot of shelters and places that need to come help pick up like roadkill and stuff like that get a huge influx of calls on nights where people are doing fireworks, because these animals get disoriented and then they flee, a lot of times leading them to a road, and then they get hit by cars as things like deers, raccoons, stuff like that. And then birds also get really disoriented, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service actually found that a lot of these birds can't find their way back to their nests where their babies are. They get disoriented and they fly too far out to sea. They also run into buildings and windows, and obviously that's a really sad situation, that baby birds are going to die in their nest because their mom will never be able to find her way back to feed them. But we talked about the things that end up on the ground that you could potentially pick up, but the reality is that there are going to be a lot of finite small metal particles that are not going to be able to get picked up, and specifically that chlorine compound that we talked about earlier, that you wouldn't be able to pick up every little piece and would eventually get washed into our water system, which causes toxicity issues for the things that live in that water, the fish and the snakes and anything like that that lives in the water, but also poses a threat to us because that compound is toxic to humans and has been linked to thyroid issues within our bodies. I wasn't able to find a lot of extensive research on the impacts of the 4th of July on animals and things like that, but I was able to narrow it down to those little medicals and the little particles that I know make up the fireworks, so I can only assume that there are probably a lot more impacts that we don't even really know about. And when you think about all the things that happen and all the potentially bad things that can happen from exploding these metals into our air and then letting them come back down to our earth on not only our health but also other animals' health, all for literally seconds of entertainment, guys. That's just so crazy to me. I mean, I feel like no one thinks about it and no one bats an eye at doing all of these things that are just very, very destructive upstream from the mining and downstream to the impacts on our health. I hope that if nothing else, this video got you to stop and think. I know that I can't even convince my family to change a lot of their habits when it comes to the environmental impacts of their actions. Hopefully some of them will watch this. Maybe this will cause them to not do fireworks this time. I honestly don't know, and they have never thought about it. That's another crazy part, is that I am only 24 and I'm trying so hard to be so aware of how my actions not only impact myself or the environment but also other people, and the fact that those people that are in my family are like in their 50s and never thought about this. It's just a little crazy how blind we are in our society. So that's really interesting. I hope that maybe you guys could find another way to enjoy the 4th of July without destroying animals' habitats, without disorienting them and things like that, and without the dangerous health implications that come from us breathing in that air and possibly being in that water. There are other options like laser shows, which sound pretty cool. I might try to hint towards my family that maybe we could do that next time, but that's gonna be it for me today, you guys. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If it's something that maybe someone in your family doesn't think about and you think that maybe them actually hearing this information could help them change a little bit of something that they do on a daily basis, or just for the 4th of July, then share this video with them. I will see you guys later on this week, and remember, until next time, create the peace.